Hi, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to tonight's podcast. All right, so great having you here. I hope you had a great day. Thank you, everyone, for joining last week. For those of you that joined last week, you would agree that it was an amazing section. Okay, so tonight is not going to be an exception. All right, so last week, I remember I taught you how to retain 100% of what you study. Tonight or today, I want to share something very profound with you, and that is, let me check my note for that. And that is the simplest way to retain and recall what you study. All right. So there are three major categories of people. Okay, people of situations of circumstances, and you will discover that you are in one of these three. All right. Sometimes when you study, you are able to retain 100% of what you study. All right, that is one. You're able to remember 100% everything that you study. Okay, sometimes you study and you're not able to remember at all. Okay, now at other times you study and you're able to remember some, irrespective of the percentage. All right, probably 10%, 20, 30, 40. You're able to remember some. Okay, so you would observe that you fall into one of these categories. Okay, now sometimes, all right, consistently it happens. You're studying and you're not remembering at all. When you're at that place, then you know that you need help. Okay, you need urgent help. Okay, now it's still okay when you study. It's not okay, okay, but it's not. Don't feel bad when you study and you're not remembering all. Okay, but optimally, or the best desired result is to study and to remember everything that you study. Okay, so you need to place yourself into one of these three categories. Okay, now there are certain times when, depending on the stretch, on the number of hours that you read, on the number of papers that you read, so sometimes you're reading two papers in a day. All right, so maybe for a particular paper you can remember all. Okay, sometimes you're not remembering all. It's all okay. All right, so this evening I want to share with you simplest way to retain and recall everything that you study. All right, so irrespective of the three categories where you fall in, especially if you're not able to remember everything that you study, or if you can just remember some. All right, so it's all based on our wiring. Okay, it's all based on engineering. All right, and I would explain that. Now there are three major engineering that you need to take note of. Okay, why? First of all, why you're unable to recall, why you're unable to retain what you study, and why you cannot remember. Okay, it's all based on these three engineering. Okay, and that's the PEC. I call it PEC engineering. That's the PEC. The first one is the personal engineering. Okay, the second one is the environmental engineering, and the third is the curriculum engineering. And I'll explain this. So I want you to give me your rapt attention. This would definitely help you. If you can get information about to share with you, it would help you retain. Okay, if now this thing is a skill, you need to keep developing them. All right, until you're able to recall 100%. Okay, so I was mentioning about the engineering, the three major engineerings. That's the personal engineering, the environmental engineering, and the curriculum engineering. Okay, so what about the personal engineering? Now this is your personal wiring. This is how you've been wired over time. All right, so it talks about your anxiety level, it talks about your learning pace, your learning style, distractions. Okay, all of this, it's knowing you. All right, so I'll give you an instance. Personally, my reading pace, I do, on average, I do 50 pages in 1 hour. Okay, I do 50 pages an hour. That's my reading pace. Okay, do you know yours? All right, so I know myself, I know my reading pace. I know to a very large extent, I understand what helps me read better. Okay, I understand how to control my environment and all of that based on semi physical makeup. Okay, how I'm wired. All right, to an extent. I hope you're following. Okay, so you need to understand yourself. All right, I'm still going to help you. So your physical engineering, the way you're wired, to a very large extent, will determine if you're able to retain and recall whatever you study when you study. All right, so that's the physical makeup. All right, so you need to be true to yourself. Health also comes under this factor, your health. All right, you need to understand yourself. Okay, so I'm going to get there, I'm going to explain this, and I'll tell you what to do. All right, So that is personal engineering. Okay. The second point is environmental engineering. Now you need to know that what you're experiencing now, or let me put it this way, you need to realize that you are a product of your environment and your experiences. All right. So we might not know, but unconsciously and consciously, we are all products of our environment and our experiences, and that's why it's very important to curate the experiences, all right, or curate the environment you are. All right, environment is physical and not physical. Okay, so talking about environment or environmental engineering, over time, your space, your sphere, your experiences, the people you work with, the people you've interacted with, the people you've listened to, the people you've given your airtime to, your mentors, everyone you've come in contact with, they've influenced you over the years, over time. All right. And that has to a very large extent sometimes put a peg on your ability to recall, to retain, okay, to remember what you study. You might not know. All right. So, for instance, probably while growing up, you've heard people tell you, for instance, ican is difficult, ican is difficult, you need to do this, you can't successfully combine all the papers in ican and pass all at once. Okay, I've heard all of these funny illustrations which are not true. Okay, all right. So you've heard this over time, you've heard this over the years. They've painted the picture of how ICANN is difficult. In fact, you might have come in contact with a senior colleague or someone, or you might have come in contact with someone and you understood their journey. All right. You were privileged to know their journey, how difficult it was for them. All right. How they would spend a lot of hours studying and getting just a little out of what they study, how they will spend so much time studying and probably not even remember anything, how they would invest a lot of time and in fact probably sleep in the library for probably 2 weeks or more and still fail the examination. All right, that has done something to you unconsciously. Already, your brain has gotten the message that ICANN is difficult. You would need to study very long hours to be able to remember just a little. Okay, now that is all part of environment. All right, that's your environment. That's all environmental factors. Okay, so I talked about the people you listen to, your physical environment, your experiences, and all of that. And that is environmental engineering. So can you see how are you able to see um are you able to place some of the challenges you're having? All right. So some of you especially probably calculation based papers, okay, probably strategic financial management, probably it's corporate reporting, it might be financial reporting, in my calculation based area, you're struggling, you're having difficulty remembering, retaining. It might even be formula. Okay, how can I know this formula? And all of those questions, this one of these three would your challenge will fall into one of these three categories. All right. So I just explained environmental engineering. Now let's go to the third engineering. That's a curriculum engineering. Okay. And this is one of the best parts. Okay. I tell people ICANN is indeed one of the examinations you can write, and that's the truth. Okay. So let me repeat that, but make it general. Okay. Whatever professional exams you're preparing for, whatever exams you are writing, is one of the easiest and the simplest exams you can write. Okay, so let me just give you these few tips. Okay, so I've been teaching my mentees, I've been saying this. Once you understand the requirements of your examiners, you cannot fail. Okay, so it's in two parts or three parts. You need to understand the requirements of your examiners. Okay, so once you do that, that means you understand what they're expecting from you when they ask you questions, the questions. Okay, the next major part will be your presentation, how to present, or how to give them what you think you know, how to give them what they're requiring of you. Okay, now that's that about that. So talking about curriculum engineering, you need to understand the way the curriculum is engineered. Okay, and a lot of students have discovered that a lot of students, especially writing, preparing for the ICANN examination, they find it difficult. One, assimilating. Two, even completing the syllabus at all or understanding what is there. And that is because of the way the syllabus is engineered, because of the way the syllabus is wired. All right. So if you would observe, If you take your study test, you will see that there's a weighting. I can put a weighting on the old syllabus for whatever paper that you're about to study. Okay. Now there's a weighting, and this weighting, there are different chapters into each of these weighting. That tells you the weight of importance given to each section of your syllabus. All right. Curriculum engineering. Okay. So there is a particular way that the syllabus is engineered. And for instance, every diet, I do a forecast, all right? On my YouTube channel, I do a forecast. I tell students what to expect in the examination for that diet. And many times, in fact, about 98% of the time, I'm usually correct. All right. I've gotten testimonials of students telling me, thank you. This helped me. In fact, this last diet, I had students tell me that it worked for them. Okay. Although I also had students tell me that they weren't prepared because they didn't have enough time to use the forecast. How am I able to do this forecast? And I'm many times about 98% correct or accurate. Okay, it's all curriculum engineering. I understand the curriculum, although I perform trend analysis and all of those tools to forecast accurately. All right, but for you as a student, curriculum engineering is important, especially as an ican student. Okay, so I've given you the three engineering that affects your ability to study, to retain, and to remember. Okay, so I've mentioned the first one I mentioned was what was that again? Let me check my notes. Just a second, please. The first one I mentioned was personal engineering. Okay, so personal or physiological engineering. The second one was environmental engineering, and the third one was curriculum engineering. So, what are the simplest ways to retain and recall what you study when you study? I'll pick them one after the other. So, let me start with personal or physiological engineering. Know thyself. You need to know yourself. All right. You need to know what works for you and be true to yourself and stick to it. All right. So for instance, I'm going to use myself as an example. All right. Now, okay. Let me use myself. Let me just go ahead and explain. Now, I tell people that are privileged to come in contact with me, my mentees, and those people that register for any of my programs, any of my trainings, or get my books, or all of that. Okay, I tell them something. Now, you need to understand yourself. All right, there are times when you're studying, you're putting in a lot of energy, a lot of time, and you're getting little returns. Now, I mean, you're studying and you're not retaining. Your ability to retain is is this. All right. Now, you need to ask yourself questions, and that's where the questioning mode comes to play. You need to ask yourself questions. You need to be able to learn the act, the skill, develop the skill of questioning. Okay. At that moment, you need to ask yourself, what is going wrong? Why am I finding it difficult to retain what I'm studying? It could be because you're hungry. All right, you might be hungry. So I've had students many times. I just say them, you know what? Stop reading, go and eat. Know yourself. All right. Now it might not be because you're hungry. It might be because you're stressed. So many times I want to ask my students, "What have you done today?" I just want to know, have an idea of how their day went. Stress is a very important cursor to this, to forgetting. All right, it hinders your ability to retain. Now, forget the fact that you have a lot to cover. All right, so I've had students fall into this trap. You have so much to cover in little time. The truth is, if you do not pay attention to yourself, to your health, you would spend that time unproductively. All right, so you need to pay attention to yourself. All right, now I gave you an instance of myself. I know how many pages I can cover in 1 hour. 50 pages average in 1 hour. Do you know yours? Now that, so this is what happens for me. All right, so when I'm reading theory-based paper, I already have an idea of how many papers, how many chapters I can do per study section. Okay, you need to have an idea of yours. Okay, now if you do not have an idea of yours, it's not a crime. It's an intentional effort. All right, so part time, just be conscious, more conscious when you study. That would help you. Okay, so also you need to learn you need to know your learning style. How do you learn? How do you study? Okay, so for instance, something works for me, and I advise a lot of my students to do that. Okay, and that's I'm still going to teach this in the podcast, one of my podcasts, and that's being more relatable, or painting painting pictures around what you study. So you want to create what you study around stories. It could be around songs. It could be around movies. Whatever would help you retain and recall. All right. So you need to know your learning style. Okay. So that's about the personal or physiological engineering. So once you know this, you are able to be more effective. Okay. You're able to retain and recall whenever you study whatever you study. All right. So let's move to the environmental engineering. Okay. You need to master environmental engineering. This is very important. All right. If you want to remember, if you want to retain and remember. So what is environmental engineering exactly, and how can you master this, and how can you use this to your advantage? I'll give you this very simple illustration. All right. So in one of my I think it was one of my 30 days ican syllabus challenge. I taught members of that challenge something, and it was based on the environment. You need to find the hot spot in your house, in your room. There's an hot spot where whenever you sit to study, you would be able to read faster, remember better. All right, you'll be able to be more productive. That is the hot spot. You need to discover that hotspot. There's a particular place, corner, anywhere in your house or in your room where whenever you sit to study, you will be productive. Discover that place. Environmental engineering. Okay. Now I've had students that told me, all right, this is a funny scenario. I had a student one time, and this person told me that they're having difficulty studying. Okay, they're having difficulty studying, and sometimes they tend to sleep. All right. And I asked the question, asked the person a question. Okay, just describe how, wherever you're reading, describe how the place is to me. The person described, and I told the person, you know what, get better lighting. All right, get better lighting. What you're studying is not lit enough. Okay, and I even told the person, okay, if we can invest in lighting, all right, take your work, your study station, your desk, take it close to the window. All right, face the window, open the window, um let the light into your eyes. Light does something for you. All right, light does something to your brain. Okay, all right, this works. All right, the power of lighting. All right, I hope probably someday in my podcast I will be able to share with you the power of lighting. But light works. Environmental engineering. Okay, some of you now this is funny. Now I remember as an undergraduate, there are times when I would study noise. All right, so I will study better when I plugged my hair to, what is it called now, this headphone. All right, headphone. I would be able to retain at a faster rate airport, but now I can't do that. So sometimes it changes, but you need to understand these things. Environmental engineering, in short, you need to engineer your environment to suit your personal engineering. All right, so you need to engineer your environment to help to aid your study. This is very important. All right, so that's about um, environmental engineering. Okay, so let's go to the last one, and that's the curriculum engineering. You need to understand the ican curriculum. It's very important. Okay, so I've already mentioned the weightings. You need to understand the weightings. Now this helps you do something. It helps you determine the amount of time, the energy, the effort you should spend on different aspects of the curriculum, of the syllabus. Okay. Now, I have a video that teaches you how to prepare your study plan. If you've not seen that video, please go back, go and see the video. If you've seen the video, go back and watch so that you understand and execute what I taught in that video. Okay. So you need to understand the curriculum. You can't escape it. It's very important for you to understand if you want to excel in your ican exams. Now, specifically, some of the things you want to understand in your curriculum. Okay, you need to understand, aside understanding the weightings that have been given. Another key thing that I want to call your attention to is this: at the beginning of every chapter, in your text, in your study text, there is something called study objectives. Okay, so I would advise you to go through the study objectives. That prepares your mind. It sends a message to your brain that this, for this particular chapter, this and this and this and this are the things that you are expected to know. These are the possible challenges or the challenge areas that we might be experiencing or that I might be experiencing. Okay, so it prepares your brain in advance of what you're about to encounter in that particular chapter. Okay, so you need to go through the study objective. You don't need to spend time, probably 5 minutes. All right, just go through, scan through, and just make sure that you have a basic understanding. Okay, now once you're done going through the study objective, then you can study. When you're done studying, usually there is a review or a summary. Go through the summary and ensure that you understand what you've read. All right. Now, if there is no review or there is no summary in the study text in a particular paper that you're studying, then you can now go back to the objectives and just ask yourself, am I comfortable with this objective A, objective B, C, D, like that? If you're comfortable, you're good to go. Proceed, just fire on. Okay. So in this podcast, I've taught you the simplest ways to retain and recall whatever you study whenever you study. And I mentioned three engineering: the personal or physiological engineering, the environmental engineering, and the curriculum engineering. I hope you got value from this podcast. Please, if you did, let me know. Leave a comment in the video in the comment section below. Let me know you got value. If you've got any questions, let me also know. I will attend to your questions, and please bring your questions. I could even probably attend to questions. I'm going to do a question and answer section soon. Okay, that will be a live section. You can ask me any question you've got. I will attend to that. So let me know that you got value. It's been an awesome time. So meet me here again next week, Tuesday. Every Tuesday, I will be here giving you value, helping you through your ican journey. If you're interested in exploring this engineering and exploring and in boosting your retentive strength, your memory strength, I will drop a link to an audio resource in the comments. Also, you could explore that. That would expand your reach, would expand your muzzle for retaining, for recalling, and for excelling. All right. So thank you very much for joining me tonight. I'll see you again next week. Have a restful night, everyone. Bye for now.